Something strange happens when you take away the noise. Most people never find out what it is, because the moment quiet arrives, the moment the phone is down and the screen is dark and there is nothing demanding their attention, they feel it. A restlessness, a low, creeping discomfort that is hard to name but impossible to ignore. Something that says, do something, check something, find something, fill this now. And so they do. Within seconds, usually. The phone comes back up, the music goes on, the television fills the room with voices, and the discomfort dissolves, temporarily, reliably, like it always does. And life continues, busy and stimulated, and always moving. But here is what was lost in that moment. In that small, uncomfortable silence that lasted maybe 4 seconds before being chased away. Something was trying to happen. Something quiet and important and genuinely yours was beginning to stir. A thought that needed space to form. A feeling that needed to be felt before it could be understood. A question your life has been asking you for months that has never been allowed to finish its sentence. We live in an age that has declared war on stillness. Not openly, not with a manifesto, but effectively, completely, in every small design decision of the world around us. The notification that arrives the moment you sit down. The autoplay that eliminates the pause between one thing and the next. The feed that is engineered to have no bottom, no end, no natural stopping point. Because a stopping point might mean a moment of stillness, and stillness might mean you leave. Every system around you has been built to ensure that you are never truly alone with yourself. And most people have accepted this arrangement without ever consciously agreeing to it. They have outsourced their inner life to the noise. They have let the constant stimulation become the wallpaper of every waking hour. And slowly, without noticing, they have lost something fundamental. The ability to simply be. To sit, to wait, to let the mind move at its own pace through its own territory. That lost ability is more important than almost anything else you could recover. Because boredom, real, unmedicated, unescaped boredom, is not the absence of something valuable. It is the presence of something most people are too distracted to receive. There was a carpenter named Elias who worked with his hands his whole life. He was not a famous man. He did not think of himself as particularly wise. But people who knew him noticed something. When Elias faced a difficult problem, a design that wasn't working, a commission that had stumped him, a personal decision that felt genuinely hard, he would do something that looked, from the outside, completely unproductive. He would stop. He would sit in his workshop with no tools in his hands and no music playing, and nothing in front of him but the problem he was carrying. He would sit there for an hour sometimes, 2 hours, just breathing and thinking, and not doing anything that could be measured or reported or shown to anyone. His apprentices thought he was resting. He was not resting. He was working in the deepest way he knew how. He was letting his mind do the thing that minds can only do in stillness: move below the surface, below the obvious answers, below the first 3 solutions that present themselves quickly and confidently and are almost always insufficient. He was letting the problem steep in him until something real rose up. The solutions that came from those quiet hours were different from the ones that came in busy moments. They were more original, more elegant. They had a quality that people recognized but couldn't quite describe. Something that felt less like a decision and more like a discovery. Like the answer had always been there, waiting to be heard. What Elias understood, without ever framing it this way, was that the thinking you can do in noise is only one kind of thinking. It is fast and reactive and good for many things, but there is another kind, slower, stranger, more associative, that requires the noise to stop, that requires you to be willing to sit in the uncomfortable in-between space and wait. Most people are not willing, and so they only ever have access to one kind of mind, the surface mind, the busy mind, the mind that reacts and responds and manages and copes, but rarely, genuinely creates. Then there was a woman named Selin who had been running for years. Not literally, metaphorically. She had filled every corner of her life with activity. Work, social plans, errands, projects, obligations. She was proud of how much she managed. People admired her productivity. She admired it too. It felt like evidence of something, like proof that she was enough. But underneath the running, something was accumulating. A tiredness that sleep didn't fix. A vague sense that she was moving very fast in a direction she had never consciously chosen. The life she was living was full, but she could not have told you, honestly, if it was hers. Then one winter, she was snowed in for 3 days. No plans, no obligations reachable. Just her apartment and the white quiet outside, and more unstructured time than she had experienced since childhood. The first day was genuinely terrible. She did not know what to do with herself. She felt guilty for not being productive. She felt anxious without structure. She checked her phone constantly, finding nothing new, checking again anyway. But by the second day, something shifted. The anxiety began to loosen, and in the loosening, things began to surface. Old memories she hadn't thought about in years, questions about her life she had been too busy to hear, a desire she had buried so long she had almost forgotten it was there. She wanted to paint. She had wanted to paint since she was 19 years old and had talked herself out of it so many times and so efficiently that she had stopped noticing she still wanted it. She did not suddenly become a painter. That is not the point. The point is that 3 days of enforced stillness returned to her something she had lost. Not a skill, a self. A more honest, quieter, more real version of herself that the busyness had covered over like dust covers furniture in a closed room. Boredom, when you stop running from it, does not stay boring. It transforms. It becomes something richer and stranger. It becomes the place where you actually meet yourself. So what does it mean to practice this? What does the discipline of doing nothing actually look like in the real texture of an ordinary life? It means you start small, uncomfortably small. You sit for 10 minutes with no input, no podcast, no music, no phone, no book. Just you and the room and whatever the mind wants to do. And you let it. You let it wander and circle and land on odd things. You do not direct it. You do not judge what comes up. You simply observe, like watching clouds, like sitting beside a river. You are not doing nothing. You are doing the hardest thing. You are being present without an agenda. It means you protect certain moments from being filled. The walk without earphones, the morning before the phone, the meal eaten without a screen. These are not wasted moments. They are the moments where your nervous system remembers what it feels like to be unhurried, where your thoughts have space to complete themselves, where the background processing that your mind does constantly finally has room to bring its findings to the surface. It means you learn to distinguish between rest and escape. Scrolling is not rest. Binge watching is not rest. They are escapes, and escapes have their place, but they do not restore the thing that stillness restores. Real rest involves some degree of quiet, some degree of allowing what is present to be present without immediately managing it away. And it means you become curious about what makes you uncomfortable with silence, because that discomfort is information. It is pointing at something. Maybe a feeling you have been avoiding. Maybe a truth about your life that you are not ready to look at directly. The stillness does not create these things. It simply reveals what was already there, waiting under the noise for someone to stop and listen. The dangerous thing about a person who can sit with silence is this: they are not controllable by distraction. They cannot be endlessly manipulated by novelty. They know the difference between what is urgent and what is important, because they have spent enough time in quiet to hear the difference clearly. They make decisions differently. They are not reactive. They are not constantly running from discomfort into the arms of whatever promises relief fastest. They can wait. They can think. They can let something difficult sit inside them long enough to actually understand it. In a world built entirely around reaction and stimulation and the next thing, a person like that is quietly extraordinary. Not because they do more, but because what they do comes from somewhere real, from a self that has been allowed to exist, to breathe, to know its own mind. You can become that person, not through grand gestures, through 10 minutes of quiet today, through one walk without the earphones, through sitting with the boredom long enough to discover what lives on the other side of it. The other side is not empty. It never was. It is where you have been waiting, all along, to be found.